Kreg just shocked the tool world, specifically the woodworking tool world, with some brand new exciting tools like you've never seen before. This is their brand new pocket hole machine. We got a brand new track saw, brand new router, and a lot more here. We're fixing to go through every single one of these, so you'll want to stick around. A lot of these have features like you've never seen before. So don't just think it's just another tool. Listen, I've had Kreg tools in my shop before I had a shop. The Kreg R3 was my very first pocket hole jig that I ever bought. It started me down the pocket hole king roadway. I have enjoyed a lot of Kreg tools over the years, and I've reviewed a lot of tools. I am very excited to show you these tools that they sent over for me to check out and to show you first, because a lot of these are the first in their class, like their brand new pocket hole machine. They've done some tweaks to their track saw, and there's some really cool tools here for woodworkers specifically that you're going to be very excited about. Even if you're on a different battery platform, you better check these out. Let's go. Now, before we get started, a lot of these tools at the time of this filming, which is in the middle of August of 2025, are not out yet, but they are coming very soon, as in October-ish. So if you want to be notified the day they release, sign up for my email newsletter. It's absolutely free. First link in the description and the pinned comment. I'm going to send an email out alerting you when all of these are available, and they're coming soon. That's not every day we get a brand new tool line, especially brand new tools that's never existed before being released. And I think this is very exciting. I'm glad to see Kreg coming in like a lion trying to tackle the power tool world. It is a pretty populated space, but I think they've got some stuff here that's very unique that's going to set them apart from everybody else. And we're fixing to go through every single one of these, and I'm going to show you what they're doing different on these. Now, some of these are very special. Pocket hole jig, track saw. We'll talk about those later. When I very first saw the announcement for these new cordless tools from Kreg, I had two reactions. First, excitement, because of the new cordless track saw and this Rebel. But then I was like, man, I hope they're good. We don't need another cheap, poorly done, underpowered cordless power tool platform out there. There's a lot of budget-friendly options. I'm not gonna name any names specifically in this video, but there are some, and you know what I'm talking about, where you just don't wanna get into that platform. So that was my main concern, but I think this video is gonna put that to rest for you, just like it did for me using these tools in the shop today. You're going to be surprised. Now, this is a brand new tool line. They're all cordless. This is the Kreg Ionic drive tool line, and they're calling their batteries Blue Ion. Now, you can get out of the gate when they first launch, you're going to be able to get a 2 amp and a 4 amp hour battery. There's also a regular charger and a fast charger. I've charged up every one of these batteries, and the fast charger works fast. So this 4 amp hour battery takes about 20-30 minutes or so to charge up, and then the 2 amp about half that time, from about 2 bars. It wasn't all the way drained. One thing to note about these cordless tools is they're not just white labeled tools. That's one of the things I was concerned about personally. I actually had a chance to get on a phone call about these brand new tools with Kreg, 3 members of their team, 2 of them being engineers, and they assured me these are not white labeled tools. They're designed specifically for Kreg, specifically for woodworkers. So you're going to see some really cool innovations here that other brands are not bringing to the table. First, the sander. This thing, cordless sander, out of the box you get if you buy bare tool. Now, some of these will be available in kits, some will be bare tool, but out of the box, first impressions, it's pretty well balanced. Like, I have a problem with unbalanced sanders. This one is a tiny bit back heavy with a 4 amp hour battery, but if you throw the 2 amp hour battery on there, like a glove, perfectly balanced. This is a 5 amp random orbital sander that has 2 very cool features that a lot of your other cordless sanders in this price range and in this style do not have. The sander is also variable speed. You have a power button on the right and the variable speed button is on the left. It looks like there'll be 3 speeds here, basically low, medium, high, if I'm not mistaken. First power on. First power on, this thing is very smooth. For this size and very similar style sanders to this thing has very little vibration so far. I haven't sanded with it yet, but just out of the box, unpacked, it has very little vibration, which I like to see because they tell me there is an upgraded fan in here that reduces vibration. So that's one of the key features versus a lot of the competitors, especially in this style. So let's sand with it. We'll talk about the other feature. And you'll also notice it's a soft start motor, so I do appreciate that. The vibration on this is very minimal. You can also see that the dust collection is actually really good with just the bag on there. And the other feature they claim is that there's a nice seal in here that prevents that puff of dust that you see on a lot of other cordless sanders when you start it up after you've been sanding for a while. And I find that to be true here. I didn't see any dust puffing or anything like that. So you will get that benefit there. And then if you hook it up to dust collection, it's phenomenal actually. You pull this, I feel the air being pulled in right here when the dust collector or dust extractor is on, and then you can also see that the dust is being pulled up into there when I'm standing right close to it. A couple of cool things about this, they actually designed this to have 2 different hand positions, so you can actually hold it on top like you see me standing with, or you can palm it like that, and it just gives you a different position to use your hand. So I think that's pretty interesting. Overall, out of the gate, for a first cordless sander, this thing is nice. Next up, a 7 1/4 circular saw. It's kind of like most circular saws you know, but there's a special feature here that's going to set it apart from everything else. But first, this is again with their cordless line. Soft start and a blade break. I like to see that. As far as the adjustments go, it's like most other circular saws, but this one does have a metal base, and all of these knobs right here that actually adjust the bevel are also metal, which I really do appreciate. Some other brands have plastic there, so I am glad about that. There are blades available for this as well. You look at 24, 40, or 62. 40, basically your general purpose, cut most anything with that. 60, if you're going to be cutting sheet goods, you need a finer, better cut. And then of course 24 is better for just ripping and rough construction, things like that. It has a blade guard like every other circular saw does. There are indicators on the front here with 0 and 45 degrees to let you know what line you're going to be following. And it's actually well balanced and really ergonomic. The handle, the overall size is not huge. It does have a nice handle up front. As far as cutting with it, cut through a 2x4 just fine, just slicing right through it like butter. Has plenty of power for that. And one of the benefits of these blades is they are Teflon coated, so it's going to help them glide through those boards a lot easier. But the special feature here that this is going to set it apart from everything else on the market is the fact that this will set and ride on the AccuCut rail, aka a circular saw that turns into a track saw. So if you're not using a track saw a lot, you don't need all that dust collection and the plunge capabilities, this might be an option for you to break down sheet goods using their guide rail with this saw. That is genius. I think they did a solid job here with this circular saw, so I'm glad to see that in the initial offering because everybody needs a circular saw. It's one of the first tools I started with. Next up, the drill and impact, a absolute staple in any shop. These, you have to have a drill and impact if you're doing woodworking. It's just a rule. It's probably rule number 371 if I had to guess, or 731. This is a very nice little drill. First impression immediately out of the box with these, very, very compact. Kreg did tell me that their goal with these was to make them as powerful as possible and as compact as possible, especially for pocket holing, because you know when you're trying to drive that pocket hole screw, you want to get up into some tight spaces, and this little jewel is going to be really nice for that. And it doesn't really matter what your hand size is, so if you have smaller hands, these are actually really, really ergonomic. I have medium-ish size hands, I guess, but even for those that have small hands, I think this is going to work extremely well. These fit in the hand extremely nice. They're also not overly heavy. This drill has a 20 position torque setting as well as a drill setting. This is not hammer drill, but this is also a 2-speed drill with that flip switch on the top. And of course, like every other drill, it has the forward and reverse 1/2-inch chuck. So you should be able to drill most anything you want to drill with this in the shop. As far as the impact goes, very compact. Very compact. This has a few settings, one specifically for driving pocket screws, I think. Now, it has 3 speeds, 1, 2, and 3, but it also has an automatic speed. What is an automatic speed? When you drive a pocket hole screw, have you ever stripped one out, driving it in? It is maddening because for one, the hole is useless at that point, and then it's hard to get that screw out of there because everything's stripped. That automatic mode, while you probably shouldn't use an impact to drive pocket screws, we're all guilty of it, that automatic mode is going to help prevent that. So that's really good to see, and I'm glad they went with that on this. Overall, if you do jump into the Kreg platform, you're going to have a drill and driver, and I think these two are really solid offerings, especially for the size and the power you're going to get out of these. 1.5 Forstner bit through a 2x4. Oh, crap, I forgot to put my glasses on. Did you see that? Did you see that? Genuinely surprised at how powerful that was. I have it on the 20 torque setting. I didn't even have it on the drill setting. That's awesome. Man, I'm telling you, this thing's spinning fast. What's the RPMs on that? Up to 2,000 RPMs on that fastest setting. In the drill setting, it blasts through a 2x4. Blasts through it with that. This is an 1.5 Forstner bit, so it's not like we're hogging out a minimal amount of material here. This is a big old bit. Blasted through this 2x4 like it was nothing. As far as drilling pocket holes with it, as you see, super clean. Doesn't matter if it's a 2x4 or a piece of plywood. I know a lot of people have problems or issues with tear out and stuff on their plywoods. Obviously, KREG Jig works really good. One of the main things a lot of people don't know, here's a power tip for you. The faster you can spin that bit when you're drilling the pocket holes, the cleaner cuts you're gonna get. So you wanna get that drill up to full speed and then drill, you'll get a cleaner pocket hole. There's a power tip for you. Then the impact, plenty of power. Driving this 4-inch screw through this 2x4 twice makes it really hot, and you can see it's smoking. So plenty of power there. You're not gonna have any issues doing normal work with these. All right, before we get to the main event, I know everybody's wanting to know the track saw, the pocket hole jig, maybe even the jigsaw and the router. This is a good offering, I think, out of the gate. First, a multi-tool. I'm glad they come out with this. I did not realize how much I would use a multi-tool until I got them in the shop. I use them all the time around the house and in the shop. They're just handy to have for a variety of reasons. This one has toolless blade change, so you just flip that switch, put your new blade on there. Also variable speed. Solid in the hand, nice offering. Also a little mini circular saw. I got one of these and I was like, what am I gonna do with this thing? I actually use it more than I thought. It's very convenient. A lot of people take these to the big box stores, especially if you don't have a pickup truck. They break down their lumber to fit inside their SUVs, minivans, that sort of thing, and that really does help them a lot, especially having just a little small tool that can transport and powerful enough to do those jobs. But even around the shop and the house, you'll find uses for these. I rebuilt my deck a couple of weeks ago, and I used one of these to saw off the very ends of the boards, but I couldn't get close enough with a bigger saw, so this made a really good option for that. Has a blade brake. I like to see that. Adjustments on here really nice. All you do is flip the little lever, move that up and down. You can lock it in place. It also bevel cuts. That is nice. Locks in place very similarly and does have a nice blade guard. Overall, very nice offerings. I'm glad to see that they're giving extra tools here and not just the bare minimum. All right, time for the main event. I think this is what most people are going to be interested in out of the gate. If you'd like to see an individual breakdown, a more detailed video on any of these tools, comment the name of that tool below, whether that be track saw, pocket hole machine, or just say Rebel. That's the name of it. Router or barrel grip jigsaw. I may do a deep dive into each one of these, especially these two. I'm going to deep dive into those, do a full review video on them once I've had time to really put them through the paces. So let's break these down. Barrel grip jigsaw, my favorite jigsaw. Thank you, Kreg, whoever decided to put out the barrel grip instead of a D-grip jigsaw. Thank you. I think it was a wise choice. I absolutely love barrel grip jigsaws. They're, for me, a lot more convenient and a lot easier to use around the shop, making tight curves, that sort of thing. I think they're just the right choice. Don't discount this saw because there's some features on here I haven't seen before on other jigsaws. First and foremost, again, the barrel grip. Thank you, this is awesome. Just the design of this is really smart because if you use this two-handed, right there where your thumb would be, you could use this actually as a variable speed. While this is not a variable speed, most, as far as I know, all barrel grip jigsaws are not variable speed. In other words, a lot of the D grips, you'll have a variable speed trigger. This one, you're just on and off, but this one does have an automatic mode as well. For instance, when you start off the cut, if you're just going straight and it's got plenty of power to make the cut, it'll do fine. It won't ramp up, but if you start making curves, or if it needs more power, it'll automatically ramp that up. That's good for battery life, good for cut quality, and just overall nice to have. But on the number 6, you can see the first cut I actually did on this 2x4 blasted through it. One thing to note about jigsaws, no matter what your jigsaw preference is, get good blades. These Festool blades are my pick. As long as you're getting really good quality blades, you should get good quality cuts that are nice and smooth and square, not jagged or anything like that. As you can see, these are all really nice cuts. So I think they did a good job here. One of the cool features that I haven't seen before is this lock and unlock on the bevel. You just flip that switch and you can move it to any angle that you want that's available there to you. This also has a blower on it. There are also 3 oscillations from no oscillation all the way up to max on number 3. Overall, out of the gate, oh, there's also 2 LEDs on the bottom, which is nice. Out of the gate, fantastic. Next up, trim routers. I have somewhat of an addiction to trim routers. I have a bunch of them. And I like to be able to test multiple ones and keep multiples around to compare them. If you'd like to see this one compared to others, let me know in the comments and we might make a full video on that. Overall, impressions out of the box, really nice in the hand. Not too big, fits the hand nicely. It's also well balanced. There's something they did here that I think was smart, and we'll talk about it. But I like the fact that this is, even with the 4 amp hour battery, this is a nice balanced router. It's not top heavy, anything like that. Also, nice. I like that it clamps down so tight because if you don't know, if it doesn't clamp tight enough, this will move on you. The base, this actual base will move if it's not clamped tight. So this one is nice and snug. And of course, you could always tighten that bolt up to make it snugger or looser. And then it has a nice micro adjustment dial here. So you can dial it in. You can see the measurements marked there in millimeters and inches on either side. So you can dial in the exact depth that you're going to need and then lock it in place. This also is a variable speed router. This thing spins up to 30,000 RPMs. If you're doing edge profiles and things like that, the faster you spin it, especially with smaller bits, the faster you spin it, the cleaner the cut you're going to get, less burning, that sort of thing. So I like the fact that they have up to 30,000 RPMs at the max setting. I think it goes down to 10,000, so you can really dial in any speed that you need. Out of the box, you get the router, you get 2 collet wrenches to be able to change those blades, you get a dust shroud, and you also get an extra collet. This is not an extra 1/4 inch collet, which comes installed. I think this is what they call a 6mm, a little over 6mm collet. The reason for that is a lot of bits, especially on Amazon that you buy, they'll say 1/4 inch, but they're actually made 6-point-something millimeters. So I'm glad they included this so that even if you buy 1/4 inch off of Amazon, you get some bits in, maybe they're not name brand or maybe they're coming from overseas or whatever, then you can still fit those with this router. It's very smart. That collet size is important to note because I see a lot of people saying, I have this router and the bits keep slipping out. It actually may not be the router. It may be that your bits are undersized. In other words, they're not 1/4 inch. They're actually that 6mm. So you may want to look at those if you're having that issue. But if you get this Kreg, you'll have both collets, so you'll be in business. I like the soft start motor. It really ramps up slowly. I like that. Very similar to Makita where they have the lockout button that the power, if you just push the power button, it won't work. You have to unlock, then power on. I like that too. Twin LEDs under there as well so you can see in light spaces. As far as just doing an edge profile on this piece of leopard wood, did good. You know I love track saws. I'm excited. I have tested, what, 16? If I haven't lost count, 16 track saws to date. This will be number 17. I also tested the original Kreg track saw. This one actually has 2 features that the other one don't have. Well, 3 technically, that the original Kreg track saw does not have. And I'm excited to see that come to this track saw. Now, if you don't know, Kreg makes the only, as far as I know, right-hand track saw on the market. So if you're right-handed, you'll love this. Every other track saw is left-handed. I like the new look. This is a more silver versus the other one, if my memory serves. Overall, just ergonomics, they make really good track saws. I've said that for a very long time. I like their track saws a lot, especially at their price points, because it's going to be hard to beat this one. If it performs, we'll see. I think it's going to be one of those that really do shake up the industry here with what they got going. Now, this does include a dust bag if you so choose to use that. Especially cordless, this may be more useful in my opinion than if you were corded. A lot of people say, well, if you get a cordless track saw, why do you need a dust extractor? Well, I just like collecting the dust, so that's why. So it just depends on what you're looking for there. When you first get out of the box, you may feel a little stickiness. That's because these teeth up against this little dust guard or splinter guard are going to be rubbing this, because when you first power it on, it's going to cut that, and it's meant to. That creates a zero clearance. You'll drop this down to meet the material that you're cutting. It's going to give you a splinter guard there, is what that's for. So, and I do like their actual riving knife integration. You can plunge with this saw, and you'll see that it plunges independently of the saw blade, so it actually comes out and under so that you can actually plunge with that. There's a couple on the market that do not do that. There's a couple ways you're going to be able to buy this. First, bare tool. So if you've already, say, bought the drill and driver, you have a charger and batteries, you can just buy this bare tool, which is fantastic. But you can also buy this in a combo kit with a battery and a charger. So if you're not in that system yet, you can jump in and get a cordless track saw. Now, just with the 4-amp-hour battery on there, this thing's not heavy. It's not heavy at all. I think some of my other cordless, I know some of my other cordless tools or track saws that I've tested have been much heavier. So I am glad to see that this is not. Now, what's changed on this saw versus, say, the standard track saw that you could buy corded? First, this is variable speed. We get a full 6.5-inch blade, which I really like on plunge saws. There's some that are 5.5-inch. I think Bosch has a 5.5-inch, which leaves you a little lacking when you start looking for depth of cut. This, 2 1/8 full depth of cut. So if you're cutting 2-inch stuff, you can get through that. Also at 45, you're going to get a full 1.5 inches. So any 2x lumber, you're going to be able to cut at a 45 degrees fully. As far as depth adjustment goes, you can see it's a single pole, twist, move, lock. While I do prefer the push and move, like on the Milwaukee or even the Festool, the TSC 55 anyway, this one works really well. Like, it doesn't stick. A lot of the more budget-friendly brands with a single pole like this, they're very sticky. They don't move. And the indicators are extremely well done. I also like that they indicate 3/4-inch ply, so you know exactly where to set this if you're cutting 3/4-inch plywood, which is what most people use these type saws for. So I like that a lot. We also get a -1 all the way to 47-degree bevel cut. So if you're doing any of those bevel cuts, you'll be able to dial in any one that you want. To get past that 45, there is a little flip switch that's going to allow you to drop past that. And I like the fact that we have a nice pinpoint marker so we can see exactly what degree we're going to be cutting and just snug that up. I've liked Kreg's design for a long time. I think it's a really nice design. And we also have this anti-kickback switch. You can flip that on or off depending on what you want. So when it's on, you won't be able to pull this backwards on the track. When it's off, you can free glide it either way. But when it's on, it does prevent that from being kicked back. I do like that they have that on there. A couple of modes here. We have one mode that is regular plunge mode, and then we also have that wrench icon. That's where you change the blade. Easy to flip that up. First power on. Dial it down. Sounds nice. See the blue puff? I was able to cut that splinter guard so that it matches my blade. Now it's zero clearance. The other feature the track saw, this track saw has that the original don't, is this is a thin kerf blade. The other track saw, the corded track saw, is a thick kerf blade. Why would you do that? I think for one, power and battery life on a cordless track saw. A lot of the track saws you see that are cordless are thin kerf for that reason. Because you need to conserve battery. You're not taking off as much every time, especially in those thicker cuts where it's really going to matter. And then the power of this motor is able to spin that thin kerf a lot easier. I'm not mad at it. I think it's a really good job. And of course they match the riving knife to that kerf, so you're getting that thin kerf riving knife. As far as power goes, I don't think you're going to have any problem here cutting most anything that you're going to cut. Most people are going to be cutting plywood and sheet goods because it's way easier to break down sheet goods with a track saw versus a table saw. And I think it's one of those things that Kreg's, I would guess, second to pocket hole jigs, one of the most popular Kreg tools has got to be their track saw. It is a very well priced, very well equipped track saw, and this one's no different. So if you're in the market for a cordless track saw, especially at this price point, I don't think you're going to go wrong. If you'd like to see a full review where I put it through all the paces, cutting thick hardwoods, seeing how accurate it is, battery life, the whole 9 yards, comment track saw to let me know that you want to see that. Before we get to the pocket hole jig, it's coming, I promise. There's a few things I don't have time to touch on in this video because you'd be here all day. First, they've got their own line of miter saw blades they're just releasing, 10-inch and a 12-inch, so I'll link those as well. They also have a brand new doweling jig, which I think is extremely interesting, and the new rip cut is also going to be available. If you'd like to see any of those more in detail, let me know in that comment, and be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you know when those videos come out because you don't want to miss them. All right, pocket hole time. Very interesting. Out of the box, I thought this was going to be heavier, but it's actually, I mean, it has a little bit of beef to it because this is an all metal frame, but it's not overly heavy. It's actually quite nice. When was the last time we had a brand new tool in a category like this? A joinery machine that is from a reputable company that I hope is done well. I think it's going to be. That could literally change how you woodwork in your shop, especially with the speed and efficiency that this is going to bring. When I first started woodworking, I bought the Kreg R3 as my first pocket hole jig. I quickly upgraded to the Kreg K5. I think it was the best pocket hole jig ever made. I still have it. I love that thing. I made so many pocket holes, literally probably thousands of pocket holes with that machine or with that jig. If I'd have had something like this, I'd have been in sawdust heaven. This, I love that Kreg has done this to us. We'll see how it works. I think it's going to be amazing. Let's check out the feature. Nice plunge act. Like there's a little bit of resistance there because it is spring loaded, but I think it's good. Like it feels nice in the hand. The action feels like it's going to be really good. Yeah, it did come with a blade as well as a driver bit or a drill bit and a driver bit. And we also have this little jewel here. And what this is for is thin stock. For instance, if you're making like face frames for cabinets and you need to use an 1.5 inch wide piece of stock, this is going to allow you to do that on this machine with ease. This also has a really, really cool feature. Let's say I needed to drill a pocket hole in this 2x4. As you can see, it is not setting level. However, if you hit this little button on the back, you're going to push this down level onto your stock. Push in on that little button on each side. It's going to drop down leveling feet. Like that's smart, because now you don't have to worry about trying to balance this machine because it's going to balance itself. And this works, it auto adjusts to any thickness of material. For instance, if we needed to swap it out for plywood, we can do that. You want to make sure you're holding it level. Push the button on each side. Self levels. Now we can drill pocket holes in plywood perfectly level. Get those dead accurate holes every time. Smart. Out of the box, like I was like, how am I going to change the bit? They made it stupid simple. Flip this little unlock switch on the back and the whole motor pulls out. And genius, they used the same thing that's on the 1/4 inch impact, the way the bits go in and out of those. That's how this works. So you don't have to have any wrenches or anything. Literally, you just put it in. Smart. Another genius thing they did here, well, there's a few here on this whole machine. You can tell they put a lot of thought into this. First, the bottom material, there is a grippy surface on the bottom of this that's going to help it stick to the wood. You do have to put a little pressure down because there's no clamping. So you don't have to worry about fooling with clamps or auto clamps or anything like that anymore. Everything, you're going to put pressure down on this front handle before you drill the actual hole. There's a few things you got to note. First, you're going to set the thickness of your material here on the side. You got to do this on both sides. You'll push that tab down, and on each side, you'll move it out to the thickness of your material. For instance, right now we're going to try 3/4 inch plywood, so we're going to set the fence at 3/4 of an inch. We can go from 1/2 inch all the way to 1.5 inches on this. The next thing we're going to do is set our drill depth. You remember on your old pocket hole jigs or the old style, you set this collar depth for your drill depth. Here we're going to do that right here. We're going to push in on these two tabs and we're going to set it at 3/4 of an inch. Here's some feedback for Kreg. I would like to see these numbers a bright white. That would help be able to see them a little better. You can see them, I just think the white would be better. And then of course an indicator where exactly you are. You have to kind of look under there to be able to see that tab where it's going into. Once you use this a few times, it's not going to be a problem. Basically centered up on the top of that with that measurement underneath, you'll be able to see that just fine. But you can see the 1/2, 3/4, 1, and 1.5. Now another genius thing they did here was they included a micro adjust, because you know if you've ever made custom products, and let's say you're planing down lumber that you get from the mill, and maybe it's full 4/4 or 1 inch thick, and you mill it down, you're trying to get to 3/4, but you went slightly under or slightly over. This is going to let you micro adjust the depth of that hole, plus or minus, so that you can actually get between 7/8 and 3/4. You can dial that in, or 1 inch and 3/4. You can dial that in to get that perfect pocket hole depth. One more genius thing they did here, other than the entire machine as a whole, I think that is going to be a welcome addition to a lot of people. This will also be available in a kit, if I'm not mistaken. So if you're not in the platform, you can get this charger and battery plus the pocket hole machine all in one. Tell me 6 pounds of pressure down on the front, which is not a lot, honestly, but you're going to make sure that the fence is there. You're going to activate this switch. I like it. You're going to pull it towards you, not push it away. Man, that super clean hole, just fantastic. The far out of this. Two things they did here. I said one, now there's two. There's two things they did here that I think a lot of people are going to appreciate. How do you know where to drill your holes, right? Like a lot of people, myself included, you're going to have markings on your boards where you want to drill your pocket holes. So they put a line indicator to let you know exactly where you're going to drill. So if you are marking those out, you're able to align that with that little marking right there. It's actually a raised marking too, so it's not just a painted line. You can get that exactly where you want it and then drill that pocket hole. What's the other cool thing they did? Well, attention to that box right there. Dust collection on board. There is a dust adapter, so if you wanted to hook this up to a dust extractor or anything else, you can certainly do that. However, this little dust bin is going to store quite a bit of dust here, and then you can just take it and dump it whenever you're ready, and you can start all over. Now, if you're drilling narrow stock, like if you're doing face frames on cabinets or you just need a narrow piece drilled, they do send this jig that lets you set this up. Has a feather board built in. You can just clamp that to any work surface, and then you'll be able to just lock that in place. And then, of course, the actual Rebel is going to go on top. You can line up your holes as you need. The fence is going to hook the front of that style or narrow piece. You can just line that up with the edge. Then you can drop down those leveling feet. This thing is solid, like it's stable. And then you can just drill as normal. Again, if you'd like to see a full review of this Rebel, like a full deep dive review, battery life, all kinds of uses for it, let me know in the comments. Just type Rebel. I'll start working on that video. Couple things to note about the pocket hole jig. First, this is across the grain on plywood. This is not some very expensive Baltic birch or anything. This is literally just plywood, sanded plywood from Home Depot or Lowe's or one of those. And you can see these cuts are absolutely pristine. Like they're very clean. There's no fraying or anything like that. So we know we're getting a really good zero clearance drill when we're drilling that hole. This machine will change the way a lot of people are woodworking. I think this is going to be one of the hottest tools of 2025. I think the Outlaw effect is on play here in full effect because I think this is going to sell out rapidly as soon as they're released. So you want to sign up for my email list because I'm going to notify you the day they're released. You can sign up for free, link in the description below and that pinned comment. Don't forget to sign that up because this is going to be one of the hottest tools to be released this year because it's awesome. This is an incredible offering from Kreg right out of the gate. A lot of companies come out with 2 or 3, like a drill, a driver, and a circular saw. Kreg come out with some very unique tools like the Rebel, as well as this new track saw, and then of course offered a lot more here specific to woodworkers, and I think that's where a lot of people is going to miss this. These tools are directed to me and you, people who are in the shop, woodworking, building stuff, using pocket holes, breaking down sheet goods, routers, sanders. These all are directed to you and I think this is a really strong offering. I believe that Kreg is going to be a force to be reckoned with in the power tool space in the next couple of years because there's no way that if they start off this strong, this is all they're going to bring. I would stay tuned. There's probably some really cool stuff in the making if I had to guess based on what I see here. This is exciting. Let me know in the comments which one's your favorite. If you want to check out the original Kreg track saw review, check that out right there. Click in the box, get you the big old virtual fist bump. Or the Kreg router table, which I'm also a fan of.